Don't try to change the image in the mirror. You can't reach into a mirror and fix what it's reflecting. If you don't like what you see, you go change. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren if you've never seen my face before, and I am your resident intuitive baddie. And all right, so this one's going to be a little bit more stream of consciousness. I do have some notes, but I haven't detailed them. So hopefully this runs a little better. But pretty much, I had a conversation with my business coach, and I had said something to the effect of what I opened with. And he was like, wow, that's a really good analogy. So I was like, let me fucking build off of this. So basically, we had been talking about a situation that he was having with a friend where um there were things that he was noticing about her behavior that he didn't like, but for a long time, I guess he had been brushing. He'd either he'd brush it off, or he felt like if he were to bring it up, that it would it would bring uh, words. It would end up in conflict, and I do find that a lot of people have this paradox happen to them where it's like, uh, it seems like they don't want to get into conflict, so it's like they minimize the problem. But at the end of the day, what happens is you end up abandoning yourself, and then it later down the line, even though you're consciously like, okay, that this is whatever, brush it off, subconsciously you end up keeping score. And then eventually what happens is the score piles up, and then eventually you blow up, and that's pretty much what happens. But the issue isn't necessarily in addressing the conflict or addressing the behavioral issue. It's about how you're addressing it. And that's why I say that it's really about you changing and not necessarily the other person. Or there is something within you that needs to change before the other person can change. So, to start this off, we need to keep in mind the fact that everybody has their own perspective and their own lens that they see through. And everybody has a different lens that they see through because we all have different experiences that have shaped this lens. No two people can go through the exact same experience because we are all our own beings. Even if you have twins that are born at the same time, look alike, they both have their own experiences. Even if they were conjoint twins, right? It's like you still have two separate souls or separate beings having separate experiences. Even if they're always in the same place at the same time, their perceptions are still always going to be different. So this is something that this and the whole mirror thing is something that I learned from the Four Agreements, which was recommended to me by a shaman that I did 5-MeO DMT with a couple years back. And the particular agreement that this stems from, or this concept stems from, is not to take anything personally. Something weird just going on outside. I don't know if you guys could hear that. I don't think it was loud enough. But basically, when it comes to taking things personally, so think if you were, or if I'm talking to a stranger, right? And the stranger comes up and they go, "You have blue hair." Would I sit there and argue with them about how I don't have blue hair, or would I simply go, "Huh, my hair is black. They can't see that for some reason. How interesting." I might probably just reiterate that. I might say, actually, my hair is black. But I wouldn't stand there and argue with them. So if somebody says something about you, especially without fully knowing your story, the only reason why you feel the need to argue about it, or the only reason why it offends you and you really get upset about it, is because there is a part of you that agrees. Even, and the thing is it might not even directly translate in the way that they're saying, but there is some part of you that does agree with that, with whatever was said in some way. And when you get upset at them, it's not necessarily because you're upset at them, it's because that you're upset with yourself for having that trait, but you're projecting onto them because they're the ones that are reflecting that to you. Now, with that in mind, of projection in general, that's why when somebody makes a big deal about something, or says something about us that we really don't agree with, like that we truly don't agree with, and that we know isn't about ourselves, that's how we know it's projection. Because also the things that we bring up about other people, and I'm talking about like in terms of gossip, I'm not talking about when somebody's doing something and it's directly affecting you. I'm talking about when there's no need to talk about it and you constantly complain about these things. When we constantly complain about something, it's not only because it bothers us that the person is doing it, but it's because there is a part of ourselves that emanates what we're complaining about. So for example, it's like if there's somebody who we know that is lazy, let's put it like that. You know, they they don't act right away. They loafed on things. Maybe it's for work. Say this is a coworker. If we are constantly bringing it up, and not in the sense that like, oh, we've told them and they just won't get things done. It's like if we are constantly bringing it up to other people, it's typically because there is a part of you that is being lazy. And it might not directly translate into the same thing like work, it might be another area. Um, I want to switch the example I used because I have a better one. Okay, so say somebody's an avoidant, right? And they're avoiding talking to you about something. If you notice that too much and you're complaining about it to everyone, rather than rather I'll get there. It's because there's probably a part of you that's avoiding something else, and that's why it's so prominent to you. Because the thing is when something truly doesn't bother us, we're able to have compassion for the other person. And while that doesn't mean that we just let it go, we wouldn't complain about it so much because we get why they are doing that. But we tend to complain or judge things that we don't understand, and that again reflect within ourselves. Because usually when we're judging somebody else, we're actually judging ourselves. And that's why it's so important to be careful with the things that you say and to understand why you're saying it, or why it's just so prominent to you. Actually, with that, sorry, let me connect. I'm spending way too much time on this. Um, Maybe I should edit it out. Okay, I don't know. I really hate editing. So with that avoidant analogy, right? If somebody's avoiding talking to you and you just complain to other people about it, maybe you should look at the fact that you're avoiding bringing up to that avoidant that their avoidance is bothering you. I think that's a cleaner kind of example, but it's not always like that. I think sometimes it is like how I said originally, where, or most of the time it is where what I'm saying originally, where it's showing up in a different area and we're just not seeing that connection, just because most of us aren't really as self-aware. It's like we like to hyper focus on other people because it takes the attention off of the things that we're uncomfortable with ourselves. um and yeah, this goes two ways. This doesn't just go for negative things, this also goes for things that we like. When we really admire somebody about something about somebody, so if we're saying like, oh, I really love how confident you are, and or like, it's typically because there is a part of that that's lying dormant within ourselves, and we highlight and notice and idolize other people for certain traits because it's really something that wants to come out of us. And I mean, it might be something that we do engage with a little bit, but for the most part it's dormant, and that's why we idolize it so much in other people. So going back to what that agreement is saying is to never take anything personally, whether it's good or bad, because at the end of the day, if you know yourself well enough, what other people think or say about us doesn't really matter. It's just a little bit of extra information. But also because knowing that they're also coming from the lens of themselves, it's all we can really do is focus on the things about ourselves, because those are the only things that can change. Um, so yes, so thinking about this mirror analogy, there is a quote. I can't, I don't know who the quote's by. Maybe I should look it up. But there's this quote that says something like, um, the mirror won't smile before you do, or it's like something to that effect, right? And there's also something about, if the mirror is dirty, then you're going to have a distorted perception of what's being reflected back to you. Um, so that being said, when it comes to other people and seeing other people as mirrors for you, and understanding that everyone's really just projecting their own shit, and you just need to know what you're projecting. So make sure that your mirror is clean. Make sure that you have a clear lens on yourself, so that when people are so people are reflecting the right image back to you. With what I was trying to say in the hook, I I'm gonna bring it back to kind of like an analogy on that hook. The image that I was getting when I had explained this to my business, or the person I was talking to, um, it's like, think about it. If you were wearing an ugly shirt, you don't go into the mirror and change the shirt. Like, you physically cannot. You would break the mirror before you do that. It's like you have to go change. So in given that, if you're in a situation with somebody where you don't like their behavior, or you don't like how they're treating you, um, the way that they are acting is directly affecting you. It's not about telling them what to do or telling them what to change, because that's like you looking at the mirror and being like, go change your shirt, and then standing there waiting for your image to go change the shirt. It's like, when people get defensive when they feel attacked, right? And when you're telling somebody to go do something, when you're commanding them to go do something, inadvertently you're telling them you're doing this wrong. Whereas when you put the focus on yourself, when you go change your shirt and you say, when you do this behavior, this is what it makes me feel like. When you make it about your emotions, emotions are something that can't be debated. You can't debate how you feel. But if you bring up somebody's behavior and you're trying to debate their behavior, they're able to defend, and especially if they're feeling attacked, they're able to engage in a debate with you because they might have a multitude of reasons and excuses as to why they behave that way. And at the end of the day, it's like you can't truly argue with that, with their reasoning, but they cannot argue with how it's making you feel. And it's just making me want to bring up all the agreements because, like, they're all so good. Because another one is like, don't make, is not to make assumptions. And it's because a lot of the time we just assume why people do things or whatever. And then, we run with a story that's in our head. Whereas if you say, hey, the way that you do this makes me feel this, or I feel this when you do this, then the person can say, oh, I'm so sorry that that I made you feel that way. That wasn't my intent. My intent was this. I'm going to be more mindful about this action when I'm around you. And it can actually be really simple, but oftentimes we think that we're getting the same message across when we're telling them what to change or why they should change it. But it's such a slight nuance that a lot of us just don't notice, or we don't think makes that big a difference, because a lot of the times when we talk, we think that the way that we are explaining things is clear because it's clear to us. But again, with that whole perception of the lens, how everybody has a different lens, you can apply this to words too. There are certain words or certain ways of saying things that come across one way but can be received in a completely different way. I think Jordan Peterson says this. He says this in an interview somewhere where he's like, if you ask me a question, how do you know I am answering the same question that you asked? Basically saying that in a lot of things get lost in interpretation because we all interpret things differently. We learn things about words differently. And we don't all go around with the dictionary definition of what things are. If we did, that'd be a lot motherfucking easier. But it that's just not how it is. We learn different things mean different things based on our environment, who taught us what that meant, especially like with the way that people use words so loosely. It's very easy to misinterpret certain things. I'm trying to think of an example as I'm talking about this, but one isn't coming to mind. mm, yeah, I'm not gonna get too into it, but it's just something to keep in mind where the more that we have conversations, the more we're able to discern and understand each other. And a lot of the problem is a lot of us feel too scared to go have real conversations and to ask questions. I think a lot of us feel as though if we ask us a question, that makes us stupid or ignorant in some sense. But I don't think I don't think it's wrong to need more information, and nobody should ever feel stupid for asking questions. Like, I was gonna bring up the whole there's no stupid questions thing. No, I think there are stupid questions. But I mean, for the sake of not making mistakes and yeah, just not making assumptions, it's always way safer to just ask. And truly, you shouldn't feel stupid about asking unless you feel stupid. Even if somebody tries to make you feel stupid, at the end of the day, if you know that you're asking for clarity and you were unsure, then you should ask. I think that's where I'm gonna leave it. I think that's the whole message. Yes. So, if you would like help cleaning your mirror, if you would like a clear reflection, somebody to talk to one on one that will help reflect things that you might not be seeing, things that on a subconscious level are probably running your life and could possibly be hindrances, or even the opposite, are strengths that you just might be missing. Link in the description to work with me, because that is what I do. I am a life coach and I am very perceptive. I I do believe that I look at things. I like to look at things from as many angles as I can, and I believe that the way that I can offer so many different perspectives, or just like, I guess, the most logical perspective that makes sense in my eyes, um, is very helpful in this work. And I've been told many times that talking to me offers a different lens. So if you would like a different lens that is unbiased, look me up. If not, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for following along and listening to me. And I really hope something resonated for you. Until next time, goodbye.